Blade first came to us, I think as a pitch from a director named Ernest Dickerson, who wanted to adapt it. And then I met with the guys from Marvel at the time. It was this fellow Joseph Calamari, and he had mentioned that LL Cool J wanted to play the character, and we started talking about it on that level. And I think David Goyer came in on the pitch with Ernest Dickerson, and we started doing a deal for it. And then David went off to write the script, and eventually it grew into this bigger movie, mostly because of the script David wrote. He wrote a really good first draft, and he kind of got the attempt to kind of follow in the footsteps of the first Batman movie. So the first draft convinced us that it should be a larger film, and it kind of sat around with us for a while, and we were exploring different actors. And then Wesley Snipes was frustrated with the progress on Black Panther, which is another comic book adaptation in development at Columbia, and he freed up and read our script and liked it a lot, and then it kind of went from there. And then Ernest was off doing something else, so we were looking for another director, and it led us to this guy, Steve Norrington, who made this low-budget movie that was very well shot and well directed in terms of action, and we all thought he was the right guy for the job, and kind of got Wesley wanted to do kind of a take on Hong Kong action films and Hong Kong martial arts, and it incorporated well into Blade's universe.
I think that Norrington, maybe his worldview is perhaps a little bit of a comic book view, but it's bigger than life. It's more extreme. The colors are denser. The blacks are darker. The shadows are deeper. He sees almost like in scope. And even though the aspect ratio of a comic book is certainly not scope, it's 1:3:3. I mean they're squares. Norrington sees very graphically, very visually, and he tells a story visually. There's a lot of Goyer's explanation in the movie, but what really moves the story along is the visual storytelling.
We had ideas about a program where Frost would keep people in cold storage for his bloodletting, so human blood bank, in other words. So we took literally blood bags, elongated them, put people inside of them, and gave a concept of initially what would be one body bag as a starter program, inevitably being a factory of blood holding body bags, keeping these people in a state of cool, and would be able to actually store and feed off of these people while keeping them alive. It's part of the story point that actually was removed from the picture.
How'd you get that scar, Deacon? A born vampire would have the power to regenerate from birth. You must have gotten scarred before you were turned. Isn't that right? Vampires like you aren't a species. You're just infected. A virus, a sexually transmitted disease.
I'll tell you what we are, sister. We're the top of the fucking food chain. And the blood tide's coming, and after tonight, you people are fucking history. It's a hurricane. An act of God. Anyone caught in its path will instantly be turned. Everyone you've ever known. Everyone you've ever fucking loved. It won't matter who's pure blood and who's not. How you gonna cure the whole fucking world? And Blade's blood is the key. We've been trying to kill this guy for years. He turns out to be our salvation. That's the beauty of destiny.
If you turn everybody into vampires, whose blood are you gonna drink?
Come with me. Neat, huh? I can keep him alive for years, producing anywhere from 10 to 15 pints of blood a day. Of course, this is just a pilot program. Once the tide comes, we're gonna have to step up production.
You're disgusting.
Why? Because we live at another species' expense? It's called evolution. Survival of the fittest.
We've got an intruder.
Beautiful.
Endings are really important. If you have a great movie and your last 10 minutes aren't so great. I mean, they're really important because it's the last impression that people are, that you leave with people. You can have a spectacular movie and fail the audience in the last 10 minutes and completely lose them. On the other hand, you can have a movie that doesn't start out so great, and as long as it ends on a strong note, people will forgive quite a bit. Endings are very important. And I don't know why, but typically they are the most difficult thing to write. They're the most difficult thing to film. In quite a few of the films I've been involved in, there have been multiple endings. Part of the reason is you never know what you're going to get when you make a movie. You never know which performances are going to pop. Things that work really well on the written page just end up working horribly, on screen, and vice versa. You have no idea, and so you can think a scene will play, excellently, and when it's cut together, it's just flat and dead as a dog. And conversely, you could be really worried about a sequence in script form, and then it ends up being brilliant, and it turns out not to be a problem at all. And it's always there's always a sense of discovery when you watch a film for the first time, and you never know what you're going to get. I mean, writing a script is not the same thing as making a movie. The script is the blueprint, and it goes through an evolutionary process.
In the original script, we had this ending with Lamagra. Stephen Dorff's character, Deacon Frost, would turn into this big... I think originally, actually, he calls forth this big blood monster that would be like a Lovecraftian monster. And then we kind of, before we shot the movie, decided that he himself should turn into Lamagra. But we all kind of thought, it's a little cheesy, this big blood thing, conceptually. And we saw actually like still animatic shots of it. We never really thought it was that great, but we thought maybe it'll work. So we kind of went into it a little doubtful. And then eventually it just looked like this big Jello thing, and once in the test screenings, once the audience got hooked into Stephen Dorff, the minute he was not Stephen Dorff anymore and became this faceless, gelatinous, gloopy mass, they just checked out of the movie. They sat there patiently and waited for the end, but they just really were into Dorff as a villain, and the minute he was off screen and became this thing they couldn't relate to, it got really silly. So we panicked and scrapped the whole thing and decided to do a new ending that kept Stephen, the villain, because that's what they really liked. So I think it was a conceptual flaw from the beginning. We always thought it was a little sketchy, but it might work, but we never really addressed it, and then we paid for it in production.
You're too late, Blade. The sleeper has awakened. You want my blood so much? Take it!
Are we having fun yet, Blade? I sure hope so. Because after I'm done with you, I'm gonna fuck the whole human race. I'm not Frost anymore. I'm the plague of darkness. Anyone I touch will be turned. Fucking pathetic. What? The serum? Can't help you now, stud. I feel sorry for you.
Who said it was syrup? It's not over, Blade. Your problem is...
Blade!
Let's get out of here.
I never thought I'd be so happy to see the sunrise. I need to get back to the lab if I'm gonna cure you.
It's over. You keep your cure. I've never felt better. Besides, as long as there's a war going on, I still have a job to do.
Oh, yeah? Then you're back on the clock.
We never talk about sequels because it's kind of a jinxy thing to do. And we're never sure. Like, we do just deal with the one movie and trying to make it the best we can. And then if it works, there's a whole bunch of factors about sequels, including whether the guy wants to return and do another movie, the actor or whatever. So
There's no question that New Line and Wesley and, you know, a lot of the people involved hope that Blade will spawn, you know, no pun intended, another New Line film, other sequels or, you know, TV show or who knows what. It really didn't affect what we were doing when we were creating the film. Obviously, the big question to me will be, I mean, Blade is a very graphic, violent, dark movie. And the big question to me will be, if a second film is made, will it be more user-friendly? Will it go the Batman route? I mean, I was very disappointed with the Batman films. I thought they got successively worse. You know, if there's going to be a Blade Happy Meal 4 or 5 years from now, I think we're in trouble.
The production design process begins with my meetings with Stephen Norrington to decide what he wants in the film. Ultimately, he's the designing chief of this whole thing. It's his image, his vision, and my job is to give him and bring that and then add to that if I can. To begin that process, we work with conceptual illustrators, and I was blessed to have a great team of guys, each having their own style, and each we would focus and guide to use his style to our advantage or to his advantage. One of the guys, Tani Kinatani, has a wonderful style, very clean, very slick, And he was very good with lighting and mood, and he was wonderful in helping me to design and figure what would the world of Frost be, or the vampire be. We would begin with location photos of existing locations, research photos that I would gather, and I'd bring them to the table and we'd talk about it, and we'd have to find a camera angle that would really work. The most important piece to this is that these things can be done. Other guys were very good at weapons. Mark Messenger was instrumental in creating not only the storyboards for the film, but a lot of the weaponry. He has a wonderful style of mechanics and cleanliness to really be able to cleanly have something built. His designs are quite wonderful. In another way, Patrick Janicki's work was instrumental in bringing life to the motorcycle and a lot of the other sets and weapons that we had. His work is very bold, very flamboyant. He's very much involved in the motorcycle culture, so he knew his mechanics terrifically. He would give us different views that we could actually take these images, take them to a company that would create this machine, and they could work off of and sculpt off of these images as well as architectural plans for each one of the bikes. We designed Blade's vehicle. Initially, it was hard, really coarse, rough. We changed inevitably, knowing Wesley's character, to a really very slick. Blade wouldn't let the car be damaged, really. It was a little bit too much to have a blower and those kind of elements, so we wanted to become very realistic. And ultimately, Steve Norrington himself was a genius in using Photoshop and his illustration ability to let me know what concepts that he would like to do. We brought him Balinese tattoos, and he took a photo of Wesley and literally sat down and over the course of a half an hour created this image, which was so dramatic and so radical that it became part of Wesley's character, and it really was wonderful. We developed weaponry together. We had issues with once you design a weapon or when you do architectural design, sometimes the illustration is wonderful looking, but when it is built, there are problems. So what we ended up doing was taking real machines, real mechanics, putting them in Photoshop, and adjusting to very specific machining requirements. This was given to a prop manufacturer and was built exactly as this image was drawn. So that is the hero weapon prior to its manufacturing. Finally, all this work that we do before the filmmakers step foot on stage really is meant to excite the studio, is to get an impression, a mood, and have everyone on the same wavelength when we come together. There's 120 some odd people, plus now with visual effects teams, that are on the same page. We all have to kind of make the same movie, and I'm fortunate enough to be the ringleader. I get to begin that process with the director, creatively coming to a wonderful visual storytelling medium.
So it was about 2 years ago we began Blade, and I had known Steve Norrington, the director, from 15 years ago. We worked together on Greystoke, which Rick Baker was the head of, and so I've known Steve for many years, and I've seen him off and on. I've gone over to England and saw him working on some of the Henson films, and he was creating all these incredible makeup effects and everything. And also Bob Engelman, who's the producer, I did The Mask with. He produced The Mask with Jim Carrey, so I knew both of them really well from when this project started. I had talked to them about just doing the Pearl makeup, which was the huge vampire in the film, because of the budget restraints and everything, and I said, you know, it'd be really fun to do the whole project if I could. And I hadn't done a fun vampire film in a long time, because I did The Lost Boys way back, 10 years ago. And I really enjoy working on those kind of films when I can. This was based on a comic book, so you can take a lot of license with this kind of vampire film. Coppola's makeup in his film, I tried to do very gothic and subtle, and it was a whole style I tried to do. It's like The Lost Boys. I tried to do a whole style with that. I based the whole makeup on the contact lenses I designed, and Joel Schumacher was very adamant that he wanted to keep them very beautiful looking, these young people, and the teeth should look like pearls. So I did a very subtle, really beautiful teeth for that. For this film, I really, it had to be violent in places. It had to really, it had to have a different style, but you could have a lot of fun with it. So you could do big teeth here and there because it didn't have to make perfect sense in every scene on what happened with it. So you have a lot of license with this kind of film because there's a lot of humor in the film. You can have fun with it. And some parts should be overdone a bit, to make it work for that scene.
Yeah, is that you? He's here! He's here!
This must be Pearl, the record keeper.
The Pearl character, Steve wanted this huge, massive vampire, and he would just sit there and he couldn't move. He'd been there for hundreds of years, and they would bring him young kids to feed on and blood packs to drink out of, and he ran the computer thing and guarded the door to the vault of the info of the vampires and everything. And that was the big makeup, even though it was a very short part in the film, but it was a lot of fun because it was, we'd never done anything this big before. So we figured out about a pound, how many pounds he should weigh, like about 1,500 pounds or something. And then Miles Tevis did a drawing of this huge thing, which was very round. And then we gave that to Steve, and then he put it on the computer and stretched the whole thing out. So it was this massive, much heavier than we imagined. And we all looked at that and went, yeah, that's the way it should be. And Steve liked it a lot. So that's what we used to go off of, was a stretched version. The character for Pearl was played by Eric Edwards. And this poor guy, we had to get him and put him in a chair and cast him in the position sitting on this chair, because when we built the final thing, it was going to be this massive puppet. And we had 5 actors inside of it. We had the actor with his head out the top. We had an actor for an arm over this side, an actor way over here for the arm on that side, and we had puppeteers working the feet inside. We made it out of silicone. We wanted it to be very translucent, so we poured a huge amount, I think it was like $7,000 worth of silicone into this massive mold to make this skin that was very fleshy. And then we had to do the makeup that blended down onto the neck of him with Eric in the side of this. So what we'd have to do is we'd do makeup on Eric with the makeup, which took myself and Steve about 3 hours to do. And then we'd fit him in there, and we'd have to finish the whole makeup. So once he was in it, he had to stay there. And it got very hot, and we had air conditioners running inside this body and all this activity and TV screens inside the body, and it was pretty funny. And then we had a giant bladder they were standing on in the back, making the chest go up and down. And we're trying to get some movement to it. The trouble with something like this is we didn't have enough time to really work out so we could get more movement out of it, which we really wanted to try to do. But in the video, Steve did some computer-generated bits of the body moving and that, which looked pretty neat. So that was a huge amount of work. And just, they had to basically build a moving trailer, which this was built on and molded on, so that it was all sculpted on. The trailer was moved somewhere else. The mold was made on it. It was brought back. And then we made it, and then it was on the trailer. It was shipped down to the studio, where a hydraulic lift then had to take it and set it onto the stage, the whole body unit, and work it into the set. And it was a massive undertaking for this creature.
He moved.
What we wanted to do, and the action in Blade was to incorporate a number of martial arts that had a hard style to it, a soft style to it. Blade's character, we wanted to have him more on a fluid side, and which would encompass both hard and soft. And for Frost, who plays the bad guy, we wanted him to be more straightforward and direct, and that fell to a Japanese or hard style. The inspiration for this was from a film that I like a lot, and was Sword of Doom. In that film, you see the ultimate cut slash fighting with the katana. We checked out a few other action films that had some good sword play, and from that we did everything we could to stay away from the seemingly popular Hong Kong action films, and try to bring out our own rawness, basically.
Get him over to this side, you'll say, or whatever, I'm just like, bam, so you're just beating the shit out of it. And like, she's like, she's the one who brings it back up again, you know what I'm saying? So she's like, bam, and she like, so you're taking him out, you know what I'm saying? Like you both sort of, ultimately, you know. Yeah,
Sword goes from there, bing, sword goes down.
And she's like, stab!
Watch it, buddy.
Stop! Fuck! And then he starts running away like, ah! And she's like, there's more. Shit. She's like standing up now. She's clocked it. Huh? Okay. What? She's standing up at the train. It's right there. Yeah, but she's pulling herself out. Maybe you haul her out. Haul her out. Standing like this. We can have a hold out. Shiny. Hey. This is your vision. I'm with you 100%. Yeah, right. I'm with you. So,
There's a reason that you do special effects work in the first place. It was determined that it was far too dangerous and too expensive to shoot a sword fight in a real subway tunnel, a real subway train tunnel, while there was a 60 or 80 mile an hour train passing through that was just a few inches from the, Wesley Snipes and the rest of the actors. Ultimately, the decision was made to build a section of subway train tunnel on the stage out in Canoga Park to film the fight sequences over green screen, and then to introduce a computer-generated, fully synthetic subway train into the tunnel while the fight scene was going on. The production bought 3 subway trains. They actually had them on the lot, up on blocks. And they were using them for interior scenes that were taking place inside that subway train after my sequence was finished. And there was a couple of exterior shots I think that they used them for, but it was fortunate to have them around because I had a perfect model available to me for a computer simulation. So I hired Viewpoint Data Labs to fly in from Utah and do a surveying on the subway train, and some weeks later they provided me with a very accurate computer model of one of the subway trains in its entirety. The roof, the walls, the interior, the wheels, everything. And so what happens is that by hand, this, on a frame-by-frame basis, this train is moved around horizontally, vertically,
And they're slid along a track. You can rotate them. Change the camera. Also, the camera, that's the object that controls the position of the train, but you can also move the camera around. If we lower the camera, then the train goes up. If we move the camera to the right, the train goes to the left. If we move the camera back, the train goes away. So this object here behaves just like a real camera. In fact, we can even insert a lens value here that will simulate the lens of the camera in terms of millimeters or inches. You can do camera rolls. So the idea is to use these controls to be able to position the train relative to the background on a frame-by-frame basis. And there are schemes that have been devised to use sort of automatic methods of camera tracking the background. We tried some of those, but ultimately decided that it would work better and probably work faster if we just eyeball the whole thing. And you can see that the camera bounce has all been programmed into this. The train is bouncing around the same way that the tunnel is. So now we're going to whip pan around and follow the train. There we go. And in that scene, you can actually, the camera's actually looking inside the windows of the train, and you can see the little cutouts that I have of the people, and see there, right there, those are the folks. Now, without the pictures in the background, the thing plays back a little faster. You can see all the people that are in there, and there's a texture map of all the little stills that I took. That's me, actually, right there. I think that one is me. The train is moving really fast, and the motion blur takes the curse off of a lot of the detail that's in there. And so I decided that just sticking sort of cardboard cutouts almost of these people at a particular view, either the side view or front view or sitting down, and just taking that cutout that was there, that image, and just putting a control in it so that as it passed by, it would always face the camera. Because if I didn't do that, at some point it would go edge on and it would just disappear. So I had a rotation going in on each one of the characters as it was going by. And it serves to give the illusion that there's some population in there. If you really went single frame through there and examined the train very closely, you would see stuff that doesn't look right in there. But to get the illusion of people populating the interior of it worked just fine. This train, we were thinking originally would travel at about 60 or 70 miles an hour, and it just looked too fast. When you start speeding things up, they also start to lose mass. They look like toys at some point. So we slowed the train down, and it began to look heavier and more menacing. And so we ended up at a speed of about 40 miles an hour. Here we're going to break right through it. So we're actually inside the train here. Car number 1. And like I said, we didn't use this part of it, but it was kind of fun to play around with it on this level. This film was in production for nearly 2 years, and there was a ton of effects work, and some of it was sort of in flux as the film was progressing. And in addition to the 28 shots involved in the subway train sequence, there was a variety of more modest projects that came up, and some of those were offered to me, including a couple of slow motion bullet shots that are fired out of Blade's gun. But at one point in the new ending that they designed for it, there was some more blood that was required. And so they came to me, and we came up with a design for it, and about 3 weeks before the negative was due, I took on the job and really got into it, and turned out 2 really high-density scenes of very difficult liquid animation.
Hey, Blade! Let's do this.
One is where Blade swings around and slices Frost through the abdomen, launching the upper part of his body up into the air. Blood grows, blood sort of tendons grow between the two halves of the body. They join, and then they pull the top half of the body, the torso, back down to the pelvis and reconstitute it. And there's a splash of blood at the end. And then there's another one where his hand reconstitutes out of liquid blood, and then the skin reveals up over it, and his hand reconstitutes also. And they're very fairly difficult shots to do, even under the best circumstances, and there was not much time in the schedule to do it, and it was an all-out effort, but they turned out great.
You're too late, Blade.
I want to be startled. I want to be dazzled when I go to the movies, and I think that there's huge realms of work that has not been touched, the animation of liquids and unseen mystic forces and dreams, and I don't think that we're anywhere close to realizing that kind of work yet.
Ready. Rolling. 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 3, 2, 1, go! Good. And 3, 2, 1, drop! Got it? Good.
Wander off the beaten path, Doctor.
I'm sorry.
You have a nice nap? You were out most of the day. Wandered off the beaten path, Doctor?
I'm so sorry.
You have a nice nap? You were out most of the day.
Who are you people?
My name's Abraham Wesley. You've already met Blade.
And cut it. Beating. And X. Parker. Right. Action.
Nice place. Took us a while to find it.
Got a Clint Bernie bag. You want bags or Bernie?
Hey, Marker. Mark.
The cue will be 3, 2, 1, back. Okay. And good. Okay, here we go. And 3, 2, 1, back! Cut it. Great. In fact, you probably. Okay, ready? And 3, 2, 1, go.
Everybody thirsty? I hope you're all very fucking thirsty. Goes an elevator. And action! Cut it. 3, 2, 1, action. Great, cut it. That was neat. Full speed and action, please. And zoom.